So, hello YouTube, TheMainManSWE here, hoping you're all doing awesome as always. Mask. So, I got a question here on my stream, and I thought it was such an interesting topic that why not record for YouTube, because once in a while, actually the P-brains that, you know, my Twitch chat consists of, sometimes they actually have some interesting questions. And this time it was a viewer who asked, Main Man, can you elaborate on the differences between Jin and Devil Jin? And this one is interesting because it actually goes into the details. So first off, you can just say that Devil Jin is one of the characters we refer to as a Mishima. And Jin is a character where he does the Kyokushin karate and not the Mishima Ryu. So we've never really seen him as a Mishima, but thing is, Jin has changed so much going from Tag 2 to Tekken 7 that you almost want to call him a Mishima these days. So that's why it's gonna be quite difficult to try and explain with as few words as possible what makes them different. But just overall, straight away, Devil Jin has an electric. And even though Jin has an electric that launches now, it didn't used to do that. Tekken 7 is the first game where that launches on a normal hit. And that's a huge deal. That really, takes him straight into almost Mishima territory. But yeah, you have a difference there with how the 50-50 is applied, and the electric, he can't bound after the electric. But okay, I'm not going to get into details right now. We have to talk about the broad picture. So, Devil Jin, straight up Mishima. Jin, sort of a Mishima hybrid. But they are both extremely all-round. Jin and his evil alter ego, they are both super all-round. Both characters can do everything, basically. But Devil Jin goes a little bit more Mishima in the style of Kazuya, in that he doesn't use a whole lot of strings other than the laser cannon and relies a lot on single hits. Very Mishima-esque, Kazuya Devil Jin. Whereas Jin is much more string heavy and oppressive in that regard. With 2-1, he has his own laser cannon, 3-1 into Zen. He has pretty crazy mix-ups there with a large tool bag. And Devil Jin doesn't have that. But what Devil Jin has is the few tools he uses, holy shit, they have amazing properties. Jin is an all-round and pretty perfect character, but he is so all-round, more so than Devil Jin. He even has the crazy pressure. He's so all-round, but he sacrifices some of these. A lot of people feel like Jin is just, every move is perfect. His forward 4, forward 4-2 electric, but not so much. His electric is not as good as Devil Jin's. Forward 4 is great, albeit hard to combo from these days, but just compare their 50-50. Jin's, a lot of people don't know this, but Jin's Hell Sweep actually tracks both sides, but it doesn't have a lot of range. And if you look at Jin, many of his key moves, in terms of punishment, or just 50-50, there are range problems. There's actually quite a bit of range problems. Devil Jin doesn't have this. But this is where Devil Jin is more of a typical, like Kazuya, where you use very few attacks, but the attacks you use have incredible properties. They are almost perfect. But Jin, everything is like, it's not 10 out of 10, it's like 8, 9 out of 10. For example, it's 50-50. He has a forward 3 like Kazuya's, and you might think, oh, what the hell, Jin has everything, why does he have Kazuya's forward 3? Well, as you become a better player, you'll notice that it's a few frames slower, and the range is actually very lacking. His Hell Sweep, the range is quite lacking. His 12-frame punish, 1+2, the range is a bit lacking. His 10-frame punish, 2-4, the range is a little bit lacking. His standing 4, as great as it is, doesn't have, you know, the range of many other Magic 4s, and it's a little bit slower. So that's, I would say, the biggest difference between Jin and Devil Jin. They are both extremely all-round. I dare you to find characters that are more all-round outside of these broken new Murray-era characters like Leroy and Fakumram. Jin and Devil Jin are pretty much perfect, but Jin is just slightly more all-round and string oppressive, and has the best parry in the game, if you ask me. It's almost completely safe, and he can do the craziest stuff with it. But Devil Jin, lesser tool bag, but the moves are all 10 out of 10, basically, with Devil Jin. And also another problem with Jin is that a lot of his attacks will either track that way or that way. So you really have to, if you don't want to use his homing moves, you really have to keep track of how your opponent decides to move to keep them locked down. Whereas Devil Jin, he just goes in and laser cannon, oh, you can't sidestep. Laser cannon, lock you down. Don't step my 50-50. But both characters are incredibly difficult to play. And to be honest, if you ask me to tell you which one is the hardest to play out of those characters, I would just struggle to give you an answer. I think both of them are incredibly difficult. But I think more complexity goes into playing Jin, to be honest, due to the very nature of a character where his defensive play is so incredibly well-rounded in many different ways, utilizing Zen for defense, or up for 2, you know, moves with built-in defense, and his parry. Just mastering all of the different defensive aspects of Jin, that takes a long time. And so does mastering his offense, because he's much more than just whiff punishing with an electric and applying a 50-50. You know, you have some legit, really interesting pokes with Jin, and counter hit utility and strings. But again, going to Zen, where you can apply very interesting cancels to get the most out of them. And Devil Jin, I feel, is just a monstrous execution machine, and the difficulty comes from that. And also applying almost perfect timing and getting great reads on the opponent, because every time you apply that Hell Sweep, you're taking an enormous risk. Whereas with Jin, his lows, you don't really have to go for Hell Sweeps. Like his down back 4 builds such great momentum. Down 4 is good as well. Well, Devil Jin has down back 2, but I still feel Jin's down back 4 is the better move here. Even though he keeps his back upright. But both of those characters are among the hardest characters you can play in Tekken. And I think that nails what I see as the big differences between those two characters. But yeah, both extremely all-around, both extremely strong. And I dare almost say that Devil Jin is the better character now that Jin was nerfed a bit. His standing 4, down back 4, forward 4. But then Devil Jin gets that sneaky electric buff, but Jin did not. You know how the electrics are right now. Best move ever, basically. Tracks to both sides, recovers insanely fast on whiff. So with that move and Devil Jin getting the back to 1 to up his combo damage, I feel like... I mean, the difference in terms of power output is so minuscule, but I would still have to argue that if you have a player who's basically an AI, he plays 100%, you know, inhuman skill or human perfection, I would say Devil Jin slightly out edges Jin right now. But that's just my opinion. So I hope that made it pretty clear where I stand on that, and that it was easily digestible. So thanks for listening to me.